It is time to bring my April monthly wrap to a close. So welcome to part 2 of my April monthly wrap, and welcome back to Mr. Francy Reads. Let's go! Yes, hello and welcome back to Mr. Francy Reads. I am, of course, Mr. Francy, and I am truly honored that you've once again chosen to join me today as we sparkle our way through part number 2 of my April monthly wrap. If you have missed part number 1, I highly recommend checking that out first, because I read a total of 14 books in the month of April, and I discussed the first 7 in that video there. So just click on down in the description below. I have where my most recent video is at the top of the description. There is a link. That link will take you to this month's playlist, and the video before this one in the playlist is that part 1. All right. So now, assuming you've done that, or you came here, paused this, went back, watched that, and you've now returned again, hello! We're going to pick up right from where we left off. So the 8th book that I read in the month of April 2025 was book number 2. I'm just going to confirm. I'm pretty sure. Yes, it is. Don't mind me. Book number 2. In the Salem B&B Cozy Mystery Series by Tracy Wilton, which is called Mrs. Morris and the Witch. So the setup of this series as a whole is that we follow Charlene. Tracy's the name of the author. I'm thinking, where am I getting Tracy from? Okay. We follow Charlene Morris, who was married, hence the name Mrs. Morris on the title of this one, and every other book in the series is Mrs. Morris. She was married and she had a child, but due to unfortunate circumstances, her husband and her child are no longer alive. So it's kind of sad. Well, not kind of, it's very sad. But while dealing with her grief, Charlene, aka Mrs. Morris, decided to purchase a mansion in Salem, Massachusetts, and turn that mansion into a B&B. In book number 1, we explored our time with Charlene kind of renovating the B&B to be opened. She made friends with a very friendly ghost in book number 1 who is tied to the place because his mystery had not been solved. And so this is book number 2. The B&B is now open! Woo! Kathy Daly, had to think of the name there. Kathy Daly! Book number 2! The inn is open, not, book number 4. I'm sorry, but if you're gonna call your series an inn series, by book number 2, that inn better be open. In my mind. I may stand alone on that, and if I do, that's totally fine. So, now that you know the setup for this one, in this particular book, Charlene's B&B is now open, and her first lot of guests have arrived. It's Halloween night, and Charlene decides to take the guests on a guided tour of Salem. While on the tour, she meets a shop owner that makes crystal orbs, and Charlene orders one. Later that night, Charlene returns to the shop to find the store owner dead. And, to make matters worse, one of her first ever B&B customers is the number 1 suspect in the murder. So obviously that motivates her to try and solve the case. So to my thoughts on this one, and first of all, I'm going to open up with the con because it's always better to end on a pro. And the con for this is that the mystery was not appealing to me. I love that this series follows Charlene and a ghost as well. I do love that. But my second con would have to be anything more paranormal than that throws the initial theme off for me. This book was not that. Okay, let me unpack this, because if I read word for word what I wrote in my Goodreads review, it may not make sense. In book number 1, this is a paranormal series, Salem Cozy and B&B. In book number 1, the only paranormal thing was that we had a ghost there, and that ghost was very friendly. That was it. There was no other paranormal anything in book number 1. In book number 2, we dealt with witches, witchcraft, Wicca, all three separately, many times on top of the ghost. So, I mean, it was paranormal overkill. Now, please let me be very clear. I have no issues with paranormal cozies. I have no issues with standard paranormal. I have no issue with standard fantasy. None at all. The more magic, the better. My issue with book number 2's paranormalness was the amount of paranormal in book 2 versus the amount that was in book 1. And it really felt like it threw off the tone completely. Book number 1 was very paranormal light, and it worked really well for this series. Book number 2 is very paranormal heavy, and for me, it felt like it came out of left field. So please don't get me wrong. I'm not saying I don't like paranormal. I'm just saying, for the sake of this series, it felt like it threw everything off because we went from a very, very light version of the cozy paranormal to an overdose of cozy paranormal, and that just really threw off the vibe for me. In saying that, I loved meeting all of the first lot of guests that Charlene had at her B&B. They were so much fun. I also enjoyed each and every single moment with Jack and Charlene. Silver, who is the cat, is a devilicious delight as always. My hope is that book number 3 isn't as bogged down in the witchy Wiccan stuff, as for me personally, it just did not suit the vibe. But book number 3 is called Mrs. Morrison, the Ghost of Christmas Past, so we're dealing with another ghost, and that has me very excited. And all in all, it was a good book. It's just for the sake of the mystery not being as intriguing and it being way too paranormal for what this series set up with book number 1, I docked a star and gave it 4 stars. Wow, that felt overly explained. So let's move on to the next book that I read, which is book number, where are we up to? That's, so we just showed book number 8. So I'm now going to show you book number 9 that I read in May, which is a new series alert, book number 1 in the Cat Lady Mystery series by one of my all-time favorite authors, Linda, I nearly said the wrong name there, Linda Riley, and it is called Escape Clause. Oh my goodness, I love this woman so much, Linda Riley. She knows how to write for me, and I was mentioning in part 1 how I am either finished with grilled cheese or I'm up to date with the grilled cheese series, but I needed more Linda Riley because I feel like she writes for me, so I wanted to start this series. Unfortunately, I have already found out that there's only 2 audiobooks attached to this series, and that is book 1 as well as book 2. I'm hoping by the time I get to book 2 or finish book 2, book 3's audio is out. Hopefully, we'll have to wait and see. But either way, I really enjoyed this book. I ended up giving it a total of 4 stars. The premise of this book is that we follow Lara Caphart, who goes to visit her Aunt Fran in Whisker Jog, New Hampshire. Lara is a struggling artist, but sets all that aside when she discovers her aunt is struggling physically. She also can't resist the 11 cats Aunt Fran lives with. Not long into her stay, Aunt Fran tells her about the bully of the town, but when he winds up dead and the murder weapon is discovered to be something owned by Aunt Fran, Lara can't help but try to find the real killer. Oh my gosh. So, my thoughts on this one, what a magnificent start to the series. So cute, warm, and cozy as only Linda Riley can do. I loved getting to know Lara as well as her Aunt Fran and feel like their relationship will be a fun one to follow throughout the series. I also couldn't help but love all the cats her aunt owns. You can never have too many cats in a cozy mystery series, and if you agree with me on that, you should pick up book number 1. 11 cats. 11! I mean, let's have one where we have 50, but at the moment I'll take 11. Given that the victim was a bully, I didn't care too much for the mystery, but the cozy side of the book was just so warm and loving. It was quintessential Linda Riley. 4 stars, and if you love your cats, I highly recommend this one. The cozy side is so extremely cat cozy. Seriously. Oh, mwah. Chef's kiss. Perfect. 4 stars. The next book that I read was book number 1 in a bread shop cozy mystery series by Winnie Archer. And that first book is called Kneaded to Death. And there is all the bread you could ever want to eat. And a little peppy. Okay, let's talk about this one. Oh my goodness. So you guys, I went into this book really excited because I'd been wanting to read this book since 2021, late 2021, early 2022. We're now in like quarter of the way, or over a quarter now, of the way through 2025. Finally got to the book. What I was expecting was something to do with making bread, and we got that. I'll tell you more in a moment. What I was not expecting, but made me really, really happy, and if you were on the Discord server with me when I was reading this book and doing sprints, you'll remember me saying this, is how much I loved that it felt like a telenovela. It reminded me very much of, have you ever seen the show Devious Maids? I loved that show. It got cancelled way too soon after 4 seasons. We need to bring that show back. There is nothing out there at the moment that is like Devious Maids. I wish they would bring it back because I just thought it was so much fun. The acting was so well done. The drama was amazing. It was just really, really, really wonderful. Anyway, so a lot of the characters that are side characters in this book reminded me of the different maids that feature in Devious Maids. And if you've seen the show, I felt like we had a Rosie character. I felt like we had a Carmen Luna character. I felt like we had a Marisol character. I felt like we had a Zoila character. I felt like we had a Valentina character as well. And I was just like, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm reading Devious Maids in a cozy mystery rather than a telenovela mystery. Because in case you didn't know, at least with season 1, but I think it does continue on, but at least with season 1, there is a mystery in Devious Maids that we're trying to solve from the very get-go. Something happens and we're trying to solve that mystery. So anyway, yeah, it felt like Devious Maids was happening, but Devious Maids in a bread shop. So I had a lot of fun. So in this book, we follow Ivy Culpepper, who has returned home to Santa Sofia in California after the unfortunate death of her mother. Inspired to keep herself busy, Ivy enrolls in a bread-making class run by the town baker, Olaya Solis. No? Yes? Going in for a kill. Going in for the kill. Sorry, that is a line from Mrs. Doubtfire. Go in for the kill. Hello. I was going in for a closer look. Yes, Olaya Solis. In her first class, Ivy meets everyone, including the loud Consuela, who was very much reminded me of Carmen Luna, the quiet Martina, who reminded me of Rosie, and the rushed-in, running late Jackie, who kind of reminded me of Marisol. However, when Jackie leaves the class to take a phone call and doesn't return, the class sets out to look for her and they find her dead. But who killed Jackie? And does this somehow relate to Ivy's mother's death? So to my thoughts, and okay, so I'll get the negative out the way first. I didn't enjoy the mystery. There are a few reasons for it, but mainly it felt to me like the mystery side was completely separate to the cozy side. Despite the victim being a student in the class, it just felt like it was two separate things that we are dealing with here. We are dealing with a mystery, and while we deal with the mystery, that's happening over here. And while we're not dealing with the mystery, we're dealing with the cozy part, and that is your telenovela where we're doing the bread making over here. And to give you an idea, I say telenovela because the cozy side felt very Spanish inspired, very Latina inspired, where the mystery side felt very American inspired, like standard American. So it did feel very, very different, have different vibes, whether we were experiencing the theme and cozy side, or we were experiencing the mystery side. So do be mindful of that. But, I did, however, enjoy everything else. The book opened up, as I said, like a telenovela, which was so much fun. I really enjoyed the Latina culture in this book, as well as the culinary side. I would say this one is heavy, this one is heavy on the culinary side, but it is 50-50 as far as it being 50% cozy, 50% mystery. So the 50% of this book that is on the cozy side was extremely culinary, because we go to 4 different classes in the time frame of this book. So it was definitely very culinary heavy. If you're a fan of that, I definitely recommend checking this out. We learn a lot of tips and tricks when it comes to making bread, including, scoring of the dough and certain things you need to keep in mind with the yeast and things like that. So yeah, very, very informative, and I do recommend it on that level. But yeah, do keep in mind that is your Latina side, and then you have the mystery side, which is more American and not Latina, not Spanish at all. So yeah, just keeping that in mind. But be mindful of that going in, but we go to many bread making classes, as I said, and I had so much fun experiencing them. I'm looking forward to seeing how things progress in book number 2, and I gave this book 4 stars. The next book that I read was the first book in another series that I've been wanting to read since 2021. It is the Domestic Diva Cozy Mystery Series by Krista Davis, and it's called The Diva Runs Out of Time. Thank you, Claire. There we go. We'll do it like a diamond. Shine bright like a diamond. Okay, so, yeah, I've been wanting to read this for a very long time, and I know that there are people out there who do not like this book. I know there are people out there who do not like this series, but once again, the cheese Mr. Francy is so happy to stand alone. I gave this book 5 stars. I don't regret it. I am a fan of this series, and I cannot wait to read more. So, the premise of the series as a whole is that we follow Sophie Winston, an event planner from Alexandria in Virginia. One day, while out to get some groceries, Sophie is stopped in the car park by a man looking to offload a kitten. Very cozy start, right? Sophie declines, but while shopping, changes her mind. When she goes back to get the kitten, she finds it, but she also finds the guy that was offering it dead. Police begin to investigate, and it doesn't take long for them to find Sophie's name and photo inside the man's car, leading her to be the #1 suspect. So Sophie dons a sleuthing cap to get to the bottom of this mystery. Oh my goodness, it was so much fun. I love mixed media. I don't know about you, but I love it. Now, mixed media is a term that's fairly new to me. I learnt of this term recently. So if you don't know what that is, I'm more than happy to explain it to you too. It is when you are reading books that will be part prose and part something else. And in this case, we have part prose, part fan mail, which is a whole lot of fun. And it is fans writing in, asking about tips and tricks with questions that they have to Sophie and Sophie's main competitor, whose name is Natasha. Now, Natasha very much reminds me of someone like Martha Stewart in many ways, like not in a bad way at all. I'm just saying, like, you know, the Martha Stewart show and all that kind of stuff, where Sophie is like the competitor of that. They're both doing the same thing, they're just in different businesses, if that makes sense. So, yeah, the mystery was just really, really, really intriguing. Also, I believe in this one, I believe there was a competition, and there was. At the beginning of this book, Sophie is enrolled in a cooking competition with Natasha and a couple of others, and some things end up going really weird. So, like, she goes to give salt to someone, and her salt has been changed for sugar, and then she went to give some of her time to someone, as in THYME time, and the time had been changed for something else as well. And so this is all like connecting to the bigger mystery, because that's kind of what we open up with, is the cooking competition. And it's like, why is there sabotaging going on? Dead person now. What's this going on? How's the connection? Fan mail. Here's all your tips and tricks on being a really awesome domestic diva. I mean, I had a blast. I seriously cannot overstate how much I loved this book. It was so much fun. It was so refreshing. And while it's not on my SASs, it's on my A to Z bingo board as book number. Is it W? Yes, book number W. That's how well I remembered. I didn't even need to look. I will definitely be continuing on. I need to read book number 2 to cross off the prompts on my A to Z bingo board. And then, best believe, this series will be on my SAS list in 2026. As long as book number 2 holds a candle to book number 1, it will be on my 2026 SAS list, because this was so refreshing and so much fun. If you're a fan of mixed media, if you like the idea of reading fan mail and getting tips and tricks of domestic things you can do around your home in between the standard narration, cooking competitions, a really fun sleuth, you need to read this series. I have seen a lot of harsh reviews about this book, but I think you'll enjoy it. So I recommend giving it a go. I'm happy to stand alone. I thought it was wonderful. So 5 stars from me, and only 3 books got 5 stars from me this month. This was one of them. It was really, really good. I just had some issues with my camera, so yeah, I hope we're still in the same position. I think we pretty much are. Okay, anyway, we're going to continue on. The next book that I picked up really, really surprised me. Let's talk about what it is first. So it was, the book number 1 in the A Sunny Side Up Cozy Mystery series by Rosie A. Point, and it was called Murder Over Easy. Gorgeous cover. Now, the people that I've spoken to in my circles who have read Rosie A. Point seem to be very surprised that I loved this book, but I did. I really did. I gave it 4 stars, and I thought it was fantastic. But there are a couple of reasons why I think that there are some readers who will not necessarily enjoy her work if her work is very similar to this one book that I've read so far. And so I'll help you out a little with that. Rosie A. Point writes with a very simplistic, easy-to-read writing style. Now, it's not to say that cozy mysteries are hard to read. If you are an eclectic reader that likes to read many different genres, in my opinion, the hardest ones to read would be classics as well as literary fiction, maybe even historical fiction can be very hard to read, not because of the subject matter, but because of the writing style itself. Cozy mysteries as a whole are very easy to read. They are extremely consumable when it comes to the writing style. However, Rosie A. Point's writing style seems to be the most simplistic of any writing style I've ever read. However, for me, that is not a turn-off. Not at all. I think the more simplistic a writing style is, the easier it is for me to focus more on the story than what the writer is trying to show me with their writing style. So I still thought this was amazing. The premise of this book, and therefore the series, is that we follow Sunny Charles, who has come to Parfait in Florida. I love that name, Parfait. Parfait in Florida, to spend some time with her aunt. What she did not expect to find was a cat that seems to hate her and a letter advising her that her aunt is away and will be uncontactable for a while. But it's the final part of the note that throws Sunny the most. You will be the acting manager of the Sunnyside Cafe in my place, her aunt had written. What? Why? How? Especially when Sunny has no hospitality experience. But things take a turn for the even worse when a snobby food critic faceplants into her Sunnyside Up dish dead. Who killed her? The cops say Sunny can't reopen until the murderer has been caught, so Sunny dons a sleuthing cap to determine the killer. It was really, really, really fun. So Sunny needed to deal with some things. I think she'd gone through a bad breakup, but anyway, I read so many cozies and the backstories are all different and they don't really matter because they're more just something that got the main character to where they need to be. But for whatever reason, Sunny needs to decompress. So she's come to Parfait, Florida to spend time with her aunt. She arrives on the doorstep. Her aunt's not home. The cat is angry at her. She walks into the house. She sees a letter on the table and her aunt is basically saying, as much as I would love to be with you, dear, I've gone off on a cruise. So you have fun. And while you're having fun, you're also going to be taking over as acting manager of my cafe. And you can't reach me because I'm going to be uncontactable while I'm on the ship. And have fun. Goodbye. And it just set me up for the wildest ride. I was like, yes, this is so much fun. It's so perfect. Let's try and, wade through the waters of what this experience is going to be. And I really enjoyed it. And on her first couple of days at the cafe, she was learning a couple of different things before they officially opened. Like she was getting trained up by the chef and things like that. And then her first day that she opens business, that she's working there, the food critic comes in. She is a piece of work and a half. So Sunny goes and makes her a sunny side up egg, which is one of the most classic recipe at the Sunny Side Up Cafe. And she takes it out to the food critic. The food critic tries some and then face plants into the Sunny Side Up egg. And here's Sunny going, I knew I wasn't meant to be working at a cafe. What the heck did I just do? It was my first egg. I thought it was okay. It was so good. Oh my gosh. So yeah, really enjoyed the book from page 1. I did dock a star as it was nowhere near as culinary as I would have liked. So if you prefer culinary light in your culinary cozies, this is where you go because it was culinary light. It is a personal preference, me taking off the star. I wish it was more culinary, but it doesn't have to be. I'm just saying for me personally, I wish it was. But aside from that, I still gave it 4 stars as I enjoyed following Sunny, getting to know the residents of Parfait, and even dealing with Bodger the cat, who was the angry cat that didn't like her. But it was the reveal that was my favorite part. I was shocked, completely puzzled. Fantastic book, and we'll definitely get on to book 2 at some point soon. 4 stars. I highly recommend this book. The next book that I read was the first book in the... oh golly, what is this series called? It's not on the cover, excuse me. The first book in the Jules and Bun Cozy Mystery Series by J.M. Griffin. It is a gorgeous cover, so get ready. Cute cover alert, cuteness cover alert coming up. It is called Left for Dead, and look at that little bunny! Little bunny, mini. Oh my gosh. Okay, I'm gonna hold it there and not move it so you can see it. How cute is that bunny? So, in this book, my rating. This is my third and final 5-star book for the month. I absolutely loved it. It took me a moment to get used to it, but once I was used to it, oh my gosh, I was so on board. I loved it. So, in this series, we follow 2 main characters. One is a human, one is a bunny. The human's name is Juliet, who prefers to be called Jules. And the rabbit, the other main character, his name is Bunny, but Jules nicknames Bunny Bun. So hence the name Jules and Bun. What sets this cozy mystery apart from many others that I've read, first of all, is that on a non-magical side, we follow a woman who is running an animal rescue center, but she personally focuses on rabbits, and she has many, many rabbits there. And I mean, can you think of anything more cozy? I mean, here I am going, kittens and cats are really cozy. Is there really anything more cozy than rabbits and bunnies and things like that? Seriously, this was really, really, really cozy. But also what sets this apart from other books is that Bun is able to communicate with Jules telepathically. So Jules can hear in her mind what Bun is communicating. No one else can hear Bun, but Jules can hear Bun. And so that made it really fun, because Bun can be a really sweet bunny, Bun can be a concern for Jules' safety bunny, and Bun can also be very much a diva and a half bunny. Like, why are we outside? It's so freezing cold right now, and things like that. And I just loved Bun so much throughout the course of this book. So, the book comes up with Jules and her bunny Bun taking a walk near the lake. Bun, with his incredible senses, is able to detect a dead body nearby. Jules knows she needs to report it to the cops. What she doesn't know is how much this death actually relates to her. With the assistance of Bun, Jules sets out to solve the case. So, to my thoughts, I freaking love Bun. I cannot say that enough. I love Bun. Okay, so I'll calm down. But his ability to telepathically communicate with Jules really takes this book to the next level. He's very intuitive and also a little sassy, but what I love most about him is his eagerness to want to solve the case, and his convinced mind that tells him he is a superhero bunny. Yeah, this is so true. So Bun, in his mind, thinks he is Superman, but in the form of a bunny. And of course, with Jules is like, you're a bunny. Like, seriously, I put you down, you hop around. But in Bun's mind, he's like, I am a superhero and I can save everyone. Have I told you I love Bun? I love Bun so much. The mystery was like layers of an onion. On the surface level, it didn't seem that interesting, but the more layers we pulled back, the more intriguing it became. I also really enjoyed the addition of a crochet and knitting class area at the farm. Yes, ding, 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 anytime we have crochet right there, and knitting, and truly a joy to read, and we'll definitely read more in the future. 5 stars. I highly recommend this. If you are looking for something really cozy, you can't go past bunnies and rabbits, I really recommend this. And the final book that I read in the month of April, or that I completed, because I did, as I say, start Pen A Dreadful, I just wasn't able to finish it, but the final book I completed in the month of April was book number 1 in the A Lucky Paws Pet Sitting Cozy Mystery series by Bethany Blake, and it is called Death by Chocolate Lab. Okay. I gave this book 3 stars. And given that my stats of the month were 3 5 stars, 9 4 stars, and 2 3 stars, Jules and Bun, book number 1, Left for Dead, got the highest rating, and there were minimal amounts of that highest rating. This one is only my third star rating. And yeah. It's sad because I went into this book really wanting to love it. What a great idea, you know, a Lucky Paws pet sitting cozy mystery series. It just sounded really amazing. And for me, you know, I'm never going to lie on this channel because I don't think it helps me or helps you. I don't think it helps me to be, to not be transparent, to cover things up, to lie, because I'm not being my authentic self. But also, I think that if anyone wants to pick up a book based on my recommendation, for me to sit here and say this was absolutely amazing when I don't think it was, it's not going to help you. And you won't trust me if I tell you this is amazing when I don't think it was. But I always explain in every review why I didn't like a book or why I did, which will help you to determine if it is going to be the book for you. Because something I love, you may not love, and something I really don't like, you may actually love. So, you know, keep that all in mind. All right, so the premise of this book is that we follow pet sitter Daphne Templeton, who has a soft spot for every stray and misfit who wanders into the quaint lakeside village of Sylvan Creek. But even Daphne doesn't like arrogant, womanizing Steve Bowmes? Okay, anyway, the controversial owner of Blue Ribbon K9 Academy. When Steve turns up dead during a dog agility trial, Daphne can think of a long list of people with motives for homicide, and so can the police. Unfortunately, at the top of the list is Daphne's sister, Piper, Steve's latest wronged girlfriend. Can a free-spirited pet sitter, armed only with a PhD in philosophy and her 2 incompatible dogs, find the real killer before she becomes the next victim? So, after all that, to my thoughts. I clearly didn't write the premise myself for that one, but to my thoughts. For me, this was an average start to the series. I did find it to be considerably more mystery-leaning than theme-leaning, and that did let me down, as I was really looking forward to learning a whole lot more about the pet-sitting company, but that all seemed to mostly be shoved aside after the early introduced murder. I thought Piper was fine as a sleuth. Not Piper, Piper's the sister. I thought Daphne was fine as the sleuth, but I'm still getting used to her as a character overall. What mainly sold it for me were her pets. Socrates is a posh basset hound, and Artie is a fun little chihuahua. So I did love them. But otherwise, it was very average. I walked away from book 1 feeling like I understand the dynamics between Daphne, her family, and the detective, but honestly not much else. It was an average read for me all up. Yeah, I went into this book, as I said. I went into it because I wanted to see the pet sitting side. It just sounded really amazing to me. And yet it was incredibly mystery heavy, and we really don't explore much of the cozy theme side at all. And that is something that always annoys me, because if you're going to title a cozy mystery series with a certain title, that implies that that title is going to be the theme. And if that theme is not at least, say, 35% at least of a book, it's going to really annoy me, because you might as well have just called it the, whatever her name is, the Daphne Templeton Cozy Mystery Series. And why are you calling it the Lucky Paws Pet Sitting Cozy Mystery Series? You know, and so in the spirit of that series that I also didn't like, the Nantucket candle making where next to no candle making actually happens series, I'm going to have to say the same with this. This is the A Lucky Paws Pet Sitting Mystery Series where next to no pet sitting actually happens. And that's what let me down. So if you think that pet sitting is not your thing, then you may like this book because it focuses mainly on the mystery. But if you want to go into this for the pet sitting and to learn more about the pet sitting and all that kind of stuff, yeah, we find the victim very early on. I think it's in chapter 2. And so once we find that victim, we don't really talk about the pet sitting business anymore. We are more focusing on trying to solve the mysteries. So this did let me down. I'm really sorry to say it did let me down. And it was a spare cozy for me, not on SAS List or A to Z cozy mystery board. So I am not going to continue on with this series. But if what I've said appeals to you, you should pick it up. If what I've said doesn't appeal to you, then I recommend skipping this one. Completely up to you what you do. And now for everyone's favourite game that we like to call Up. These are the books that I mentioned in part 2 of my April monthly wrap. Please do be kind, love one another, and spread your sparkling energy all throughout the world. Yes! And until next time, happy reading. Bye, everyone!